Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to talk about Ultima 5.
Okay, man. Oh dear, oh my.
Now, you're a big role-playing guy.
I'm big and I'm into role-playing heavily, yes.
Yeah. And whenever you first heard about computer role-playing,
Yeah.
were you skeptical?
Well, I was super duper young. And my role-playing began really after computer gaming probably was already...
Oh, I see.
You gotta think. The first computer games, the RPGs were like the 60s, you know. So it was already a thing. But I enjoyed them, but I never looked at, to this day I still don't, never looked at computer role-playing games as role-playing games, because they're not, all right? In my opinion, not to cheese anyone off, because if you actually play a role-playing game, you're playing a character, a role in a game, and you're interacting with other people who are playing characters.
It's a social thing.
It's hard to recreate that in a game. Now, is it impossible? No, but it's difficult, and I've played very few where I got that feeling that they were pulling it off, you know. But I will say, MMOs. It made it easier, although even then it's not. Listen, you can't have an MMO or RPG game without a bunch of idiots running through going like, I need, you know, they're like cussing or whatever, you know, because it's the net, so it's a double-edged sword. But I did play some of the early games, and I was never super into them, to be honest with you. And even now, I'm not that into them either, because when you've actually had really good role-playing games in real life, I never get the same fun sensation that I do on a computer game. But still, if it's all you got, you know, or some people are really into them, or if you look at them from a tactical aspect of it, or you just really get into your character, you can sort of, even you can role play it yourself in your head. You know, yes, I can.
Yeah.
What about you?
I didn't do any role playing at all until the first serious role playing I ever did was with you. When we had that long running game here at Amigos Studios pre-podcast.
Yeah.
But I've always been into role playing. Like, I would look at stat books and stuff like that growing up. I just never had anybody to play with. And I will say that I was attracted to role playing games because of that simple fact. You know.
Yeah.
I like the idea, and of course I grew up being a console guy, so with the Dragon Warrior games on the Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that here was a game that I could beat without being particularly dexterous. All I'd have to do is level up my character enough to where I could roll in and beat some butt. And that was attractive to me because I was not very good at video games, much like now.
Now, you offer me an interesting line of questions here, because I've always wondered this, but I can ask you, because you're into like Zeldas and Dragon Warrior and all this stuff that I'm not.
Zelda's not a role-playing game.
Well, okay. Remove Zelda, and that's your opinion. When you played, what is your favorite computer role-playing game?
My favorite computer role-playing game is probably Chrono Trigger. On the Super
Chrono
Nintendo.
Trigger. That's fine. You've actually role-played in games, and you have played Chrono Trigger well before you did actual role-playing. Compare and contrast the two, because I didn't play Chrono Trigger, but I have played games that, like, I've played some of the Gold Box stuff and Eye of the Beholder, stuff like that I can never look at like I do role playing. And for you that played one before the other, and unlike me, how did the two worlds mesh? Could you pull up the same feelings when you were playing Chrono Trigger that you did when you were actually role playing, or was it totally different?
I think that there are some definite similarities, and there are some differences. I think that there are more similarities than differences, though. In both and it depends on what system you're playing too. But let's say Dungeons and Dragons versus video game. In both games, they're very combat oriented. Combat is most of what you do.
All right.
There's statistics. You have certain percentages. You have certain randomness that's involved, and you have a progression, a character progression, level progression. You level up certain abilities and things like that. So that side of it is similar. There's also an overarching story. Now, again, this is dependent on your in-person campaign, but your DM, if you're doing a long-term thing, he may have an arc in his mind of where he wants things to end up. Okay?
Yep.
The differences are that it is when you're playing with your buddies and something goes off the rails, if you have a good DM, he knows how to roll with it and he can adapt the story accordingly.
Right.
Versus, when we're playing a video game, things are predetermined and they're the same for everybody all the time. I can sit down and play Chrono Trigger right now. The ending would be this. There's 17 different endings, but you would roll through the game in the same way.
Right.
So, is one better than the other? I mean, given the option, I would rather play with real people anytime.
I guess my bigger question is, and that did answer some of it. When you're playing Chrono Trigger,
right?
I don't know your character's name in that. Maybe
Chrono.
you name him. Okay, there you go.
Or you can name him. But,
all right, but let's say he's Chrono. Do you feel like you're Chrono, and do you do things in the character of Chrono like you would, say, with the captain in our Cthulhu game?
In Chrono
That's the
Trigger,
part I'm really wondering.
So in old school role-playing games on the 8 and 16-bit systems on the consoles, there is none of that.
Right, because the dialogue's already there.
The dialogue's already there. The role-playing aspect itself is like, oh, should I choose to equip this weapon or use this? Do I want to take my character down this combat path and level up
it's
this?
More tactical.
Yeah.
Now, what about something like a more modern, let's say like, I remember Fable was supposed to be a thing where you could make good and bad. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, I play in Mass Effect is like this too. Any game with like moral choices and things, they still in video games they still have not done that well.
Yeah.
You'll never have the amount of freedom that you do when you're sitting around a table with your buddies and you're bouncing things off each other.
And again, not to knock these things. I mean, and listen, there are some games that are great that I just don't play. All right, it's not their fault. When I'm playing role-playing stuff in real life, like actual with people, the stats, the percentages, the actual math is my least favorite part because it slows everything down. I like the experience and like the act of people thinking and pondering and making moves and reasoning and doing things that their character would do. And I've never gotten a feeling of that when I was playing a computer game.
Yeah, you can't. It's almost impossible unless you're literally playing like virtual tabletop simulator and you're doing the same thing.
So we're sort of on the same page.
Absolutely.
Here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that doesn't mean you can't play them and enjoy them.
No,
it just means it's different. It's a difference.
I will say that I probably like the statistics side of things more than you do. Like I like the idea of choosing a weapon and rolling and looking it up on the table and stuff like that.
And some people listen, my buddy Big Head, he's a min-maxer when it comes to like champions characters. And some people are. My buddy Pat's like that. I've never been like that. I just like to have a cool character that I can relate to or enjoy. But both are acceptable.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always wondered about that. Because it's just something I could never. They're almost like totally. When they called them role-playing games, I never got that part of it. They're like it's just another facet of like tactical game for me. There's not really the role-playing aspect. I never really got, and that's probably why.
Yeah, I think it falls into the case of there's not really a word that describes what you do in those sorts of games perfectly, and it was sort of a new genre, and so role-playing was the best they could do.
Very good.
Let's talk about what's been going on this week in the world of everythingamiga.com, Aaron.
All right. Our good boy, the Dreamcatcher, has been up again. This time he's looking at a game that we were pondering this before the show. I'm pretty sure we covered this back in the day. Game called Navy SEALs. Now, have you ever seen Navy SEALs? The movie?
I have never seen. This sounds like something that's violent.
I believe. Yeah, I'd say you're right. I know. I think Bill Paxton's this, and I think what's his name? Old Cougar Blood guy. What the heck's his name?
Old Cougar Blood.
Or no, Tiger Blood. What's his name? Help me out here. The family. There's Emilio Estevez's brother, Martin Sheen.
Okay.
No, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen. when you get old, this is what happens. I think he's in this.
It is, because it says Charlie right there.
Oh, good. There you go. I've never seen this either, but I did like the game an awful lot. And Dreamcatcher has done his usual slideshow of the film combined with the games. Now, this game came out on multiple systems, which I also didn't know.
Yeah.
You did know
I
that?
didn't know that, but as I was reading this, it came to me that there's a Game Boy version, a NES version, so this thing got around.
Was this movie successful? Do you know if it was a... I don't remember this being a big deal.
I think this looks like it's from the very early 90s, possibly, and I don't know. I was 8 years old. I wasn't watching a whole lot of
Can you imagine Charlie Sheen as a Navy SEAL?
Well, he was in Platoon.
Right, but he sucks. He's a crazy drug-taking maniac.
Yeah, but back then he was a serious
But Navy
actor.
SEAls are real hardcore, stud types.
I think anytime you've got a movie with military personnel in it, it's sort of like watching West Side Story for the authentic, gang action. Yeah,
they don't go like this.
Right.
I thought they did. Anyway, Dreamcatcher goes down the line. Check it out if this is your bag, or even if it's not. I do recommend the game. I kind of liked it. As far as these sorts of games go, that's just me.
Cool. Aaron, we finally, after a couple weeks of some slow news, we have some fast news. We only have a couple stories.
Fast news.
We only have a couple stories
some fast news.
But it's they're good stories. I think they're good. The first one is there's a new Amiga Ireland podcast. Okay. And they're going over a bunch of hardware stuff. They dig deep into the non-gaming side of Amiga stuff. They're kind of different than us.
Is that a Pixel Vixen joint there?
Yeah, and part of the reason why I put this on here is that this artwork for their podcast is done by Pixel Vixen.
Yeah. And
she is very, very shortly, less than a week away, moving to Japan.
I heard that. Yeah. I follow her on Twitter. Yep. Good luck over there, Vicky.
Yeah. So, but check out, if you're at all interested in the hardware side of things, what's new and upcoming on the Amiga, check out the Amiga Ireland podcast. Now, Aaron, back to stuff that we're more familiar with. Drankin'.
What?
It's Tapper, Aaron. Tapper is coming to the Amiga.
Goody. I love this game.
It's amazing to me that there has not yet been a version of Tapper for the Amiga, because there's a version of Tapper for almost everything.
That is stunning, isn't it?
It is. And of course, Tapper is one of my absolute favorite games, favorite arcade games.
Yeah.
I am very, very excited about this. There's some footage, of course, by Saberman. This story comes to us from Neil over at Indie Retro News. It looks great. I mean, there's still some work to be done in the character design, but looks like all the mechanics are kind of in place. So I would imagine that it won't be long before this thing gets its full release.
I love this game, and if I could afford it and the cabinet was available, the good one,
the cabinet's so
I'd buy
good.
the crap. It's got that bar at the bottom for your foot. It's got the actual tap. And have you ever played this in the arcade?
Yes, absolutely.
And the tap makes a difference. That makes it more fun, or funner, if you will.
Yeah.
So I fully endorse this. Now, I mean, we covered we've covered a few of the games that came home for the Amiga, and again, they weren't necessarily my type of game. They were great conversions. This is a game that I can get behind. I really love this game in the arcade. It does look good.
Yeah. And one more. This is actually a new release, Aaron. Tiny Little Slug.
Yeah.
It claims to be a charming platformer. This comes to us again from Indie Retro News.
Now hold on a second. Tapper's not out. It's a preview.
Normally.
And this is also a preview, right?
No. This was actually released.
Oh, this is released.
Normally we don't talk about previews on Amigos, but for Tapper we make an exception.
Okay.
This game is actually really released. You can download it right now.
So it's free?
It's free.
Oh, beautiful.
And it looks like you can purchase a CD version, floppy disk, or as a downloadable file. I apologize, it is not free. We're going to look and see how much the price is right now.
Hey, it runs on a standard Amiga 500. Not bad.
That's good. Looks like order.
My God, he'll get to the bottom of it.
Tiny Little Slug, price listed and product details. Man. I'm looking at the product details
Scroll
right
down.
now.
Is this it?
They don't get much more detailed than that. I don't know. Maybe it's free. Maybe we should add. Oh, 19 euros for the download. Thank you, Duncan. All right.
19 euros.
That's
do
very.
Do we have video of this?
We do have a video of this. Let's watch a little bit of this video.
That's what, about 20, 25 bucks?
Yeah, it's not very cheap.
Wow. I will say this looks good.
It does look good. This is definitely beyond your sort of average homebrew Amiga program. This appears to be a puzzle platformer where you have no vertical jumping ability. You've got to maneuver through the caverns, hugging the walls, which I believe is a lot like Globule, isn't it? Do you remember old Globule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looks pretty good.
It
This looks
does.
very clever.
Yeah, I don't know though. 19 euros seems pretty steep for a download.
Well, I don't know. Again, we don't know how many levels are involved. We don't know anything of custom music. We don't know anything about that part. So this is one we'll have to look at, and then we'll have to maybe.
And according to Duncan, again, it's 29 euros for the download and floppy or the download and CD. And I think that to me, it would be worth, if you were really into this, paying the extra $10 to get the floppy, get the whole package.
You get a box and stuff, presumably.
Yeah, probably so. So
it's very clever looking.
Yeah. So it is very pretty, very pretty. So anyway, tiny little slug. All right, Aaron, we've put it off long enough.
Oh yeah.
It's time to talk about Ultima 5.
Let's talk about this game, Bo. Now, before we kick into this, let's ask that age-old question. Have you ever played this or any Ultima?
Sorry, real-time follow-up. It's 19 for the floppy and the download.
There you go.
Okay.
That's more reasonable.
I've never played Ultima 5.
Yeah.
I've had the proverbial cup of coffee with Ultima 4 on the Atari 8-bit.
How much of a cup did you drink on that one?
Most of my time was spent in loading.
I see. So you spent how much? Give us a rough rounded estimate on how much you actually played it.
Under 10 minutes.
Okay, so that's practically none.
Practically none.
So, believe it or not, I'm old, and my buddy had either Ultima 2 or 3 for the Atari. It's whatever the first one was, he had it. He had the very first one that was available on the Atari.
I know that I had Ultima 4 for the Atari, but I don't know what other games were released for it.
The reason I remember this is my buddy was very proud of his Atari, much like yourself, and he hooked his Atari. He hooked his Atari up. Believe it or not, originally this guy had his IBM PC hooked up to his stereo. So when this thing beeped, it would blow the windows out of his house.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, that's what he didn't have a sound blast or anything. He just had the beep.
Right, oh yeah, that's crazy.
He was nuts.
Yeah.
But
is this Theo?
This is Theo.
Oh yeah.
Eventually he had his Atari hooked up, and so then he would blow the speakers out on that. But I remember looking at him playing this, and he had all the accoutrement, and I was like, my God.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. You know? Remember that thought as we move forward with Ultima 5. Now, Ultima 5, Warriors of Destiny, that's the full title, Boatster. Released in '89 on the Amiga. This thing was developed by DMA Systems. Now, I thought to myself, DMA?
Yeah.
No,
it's not.
It's a different company. They did 2 games. They did Prophecy, or maybe just be one. Prophecy Viking Child. Those
sounds like another role-playing game.
Yeah. Now, the people that worked on this were luminaries on the Amiga. They did a lot. This was coded by Keith Jackson. He did Airborne Ranger, Butcher Hill, and Special Forces. The graphics on this were done by Dennis Lebet. He actually did, among other things, Space Road, which I have played. He worked on Ultima 6, Windwalker, and Wing Commander.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to believe someone that worked on Wing Commander worked on this. But there are cut scenes, and I'm sure I haven't played that stuff he did. The music on this boat, Barry Lech, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Amongst his claims to fame were Hero Quest, Humans, Lotus 2, Nightbreed, Silkworm, Supercars, and about 1 million other things.
Here's what I'm wondering.
All right.
Because I don't know that all the sources break this down, but a lot of times the audio engineering and the musician get lumped in together.
Yeah, could be.
So,
because there is a secondary guy that also worked on the music that doesn't have any credits at all. So there you go. Now, we all know who actually made this game originally, and that was Richard Garriott, a.k.a. Lord British. Guy with an enormous amount of wad.
Lives in a castle.
Went into space. He's nutty as a fruitcake.
Not a fan of Donald Trump. I follow him on Twitter.
Oh, is he?
No.
He's was a big-time D&D guy from back in the day, and he's the guy that worked on pretty much all the Ultimas up to this one. Now, one of the things about this that I found out was this is the last Ultima that he pretty much did all by himself. I mean, the story, the coding.
I imagine that at this point it was a combination of him becoming so incredibly rich and also the games becoming so incredibly difficult to do as a one-man show. He'd have to hire more
It's
help.
amazing to me that a guy, I mean, again, when I say he coded this, And of course, he coded the original version, and this the other fellows I mentioned did the Amiga port of this. But my God, can you imagine the guy who sat down and put this plot together? I don't know how much you know about the plot, but my gosh, it's amazing. So this got 1 million conversions. Some of these were surprising. I'm going to ask you about a couple. Of course, you had the Apple II, which was Apple was sort of the lead on the Ultimas up to this point.
Yeah, Alcabeth was. I want to say, I don't know. I mean, maybe the chat can look this up real quick, but I want to say Ultima 4 was the only Ultima on the Atari 8-bits, and the rest of them were just on the Apple II.
Really?
Yeah.
That maybe I remember playing this when I was really young. So I don't know, but I mean, when I say young, I mean my teens. So
right.
it could have been 4. Anyway, this also got released on the Atari ST, the Commodore 128, the Commodore 64, the FM Towns Marty, NEC 98, the Nintendo NES, and DOS, the X68000, and there was a Tandy version. Have you ever played this on the NES?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to ask you. So give us the scoop.
So the NES version is totally different.
I read that.
It plays a lot more like a traditional Japanese role-playing game, in that everything turns into a like a cursor-based navigation. Yeah. So when you want to select something, instead of typing commands into the keyboard, you highlight things on the screen. The dialogue system is all different. For me, it was a much easier way to play this game. Yeah. But that comes from my own background.
Now, all the early, I mean, a lot of Ultimas got released on the NES, didn't they? Like, was it 4 also?
No, I don't think so. I think only 5.
Oh, really?
I think only 5.
Okay. So this is the second Ultima in the Age of Enlightenment trilogy. Did you even know that?
I did.
Okay, good. I didn't know it until I read it on the docs.
I think it's 3, 3, and 3.
Yeah.
Just like Star Wars, the best trilogy of trilogies.
Okay, there you go. I didn't know that. So let's talk about, before we get into this, let's just talk about what's going on in Ultima. Now, I was talking to Bud before the show. We knew this one was coming, didn't we? Okay? So I went and I didn't even wait. And you know I never do this, but I print out the docs, okay? So if you're watching at home, this is my reference card, okay? This is the quick reference card, all right? If you're not watching at home, there's about 4 pages of straight up text, yo. This is my manual, which is a crap load of manual here. The manual actually includes a bunch of different stuff, including the lore. The book of lore is in here. Basically, what you've got in this is the manual for the game, plus the Expedition of Lord British, plus the lore manual, plus a manual that tells you about the world of Ultima, the economy, the different cities, the different buildings, stuff like that. This game was one that I probably pirated and probably never booted. I don't remember, because I knew the Ultima games required books. All right, and this was no different.
It's the ultimate copy protection.
And so when you start this game, if you haven't followed Ultima, you are what's called the Avatar, which is the guy that lives in our world. And occasionally he'll be called on to go to the world of Ultima to help Lord British in his kingdom. Right? That's what happens here, effectively. If you didn't read the book, you don't know what's going on at the start of this game. I watched your video, and you had no idea what was going on at the start of the game. It's not your fault. You had to read the book, which I read. So your guy's in his house. He gets this coin thing. He goes out to he knows it's time to go to the Ultima world. He goes out to this garden, thing of rocks, door opens. He gets teleported to the world. The first thing that happens is his buddy's there, the guy that summoned him, and there are 3 dark cloaked figures in this field. And when your guy shows up, they shoot at the guy, your buddy, and they wound him. And then the thing you're holding basically scares them off, and they run away. All right? Excuse me. They do that for a reason. So, and I'm assuming you know this by now. In the game world, since the last adventure, Lord British and some of his knights have went around, and they're closing up all the dungeons. Right. Okay? And they go to the nastiest, most crummiest one. They go down this waterfall, a couple waterfalls. If you read the book of Lord British, it tells you this stuff. They ended up having an encounter where a bunch of his guys got killed. Then some more got killed, and then that's the end of it. He's gone.
Well, he gets captured.
Right. Yeah. He's gone, but you don't know exactly what's happened to him. And so since he's been gone, Blackthorn has taken over the kingdom. Now, Blackthorn was basically his second in command, but he's been. You find out as you play this game that his mind has been warped by these shadowy figures. And so you're brought in to kind of save the day.
Yeah, so he becomes sort of, this is all these Ultima games are kind of morality tales.
Yeah.
And the shtick with this game is that Ultima 4 is all about learning how to be good, the ultimate, good person. And Ultima 5 is an example of what can happen when a good person goes too far to be good. And it becomes, instead of like, you should always be honest, to like, if you ever lie a little bit, that your tongue will be cut out, something like that, And so you go to all of these different cities where Blackthorn has left his mark, and you see these scrolls that have been unraveled that give you these pronouncements, and it's like this enforced ultra goodness that's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty deep stuff.
Yeah.
More or less. Now, before we get too much into the actual game, let's talk about rolling up your character. If you've never done it in Ultima before, and I had played, I don't know which one, but I've played other Ultimas past this one. So I had seen this sort of wacky, weird thing you do. And basically what you do is you're asked these morality questions, and whichever way you answer sort of shapes the kind of character you've got, right? Now, could you tell what these questions meant? What stats were changed? Any of that stuff? I never even...
You're not wrong in that this is not the only game that does this. I think that Bard's Tale does this too. I hate this. I hate this so much because when I'm rolling a character, I want to know what I'm good at when I get done rolling my character, so I know how to play. This game does. It would be fine if they ask you these questions and it says, okay, here were your answers. Here's how this translates into your character. This is what you got to watch out for. It gives you none of that.
It's funny because I can understand what you're saying. This was so. The first time I played a game and it could have been this years ago. I can't remember because they blend together in my mind. The first time I did this, I thought this was so clever, and so when I did it again this time, I still liked it because they do a good job. The questions you answer, it reminds me of when you go apply for a job. You ever done that? They give
I've
that
applied for
questionnaire.
a job before, yes.
No, I mean, they ever had the questionnaire where they give you these ethical choices?
Yeah.
They don't all do it.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminds me. It's almost like a job app testing your ethics. And the ethical questions, there's really not a wrong answer a lot of times.
Yeah, I remember when Eep was applying for the Toyota over there were like 16 of these types of questions. I mean, this is a big deal sort of test. I don't have a problem with I think it's cool. I think it's a lot better than allocating stat points at the beginning.
But it isn't helpful in terms of knowing what's going on.
It's very similar to Heimdall. Remember the old Heimdall test that you have to take at the beginning of the game? It's like, give me whatever you want, but after I'm done, show me what I've got.
I thought it was unusual. And I don't remember a game doing it before this, but maybe you're right. It could have been another one. I don't know. These games, again, they sort of all kind of roll into my brain. So when you start this game, you and your two buddies are basically on the run. You're basically hiding out, okay?
Your buddies are Shamalingo and Olo.
Your buddies' names suck. I can tell you that right now.
I mean, Shamino is my jam.
Well,
he's my boy. We're in it together.
I can't tell you how many times I got these guys killed. Because they died many times.
Shamino dies almost immediately every time you play.
When you start the game, there are very nice graphical screens to tell you what's going on.
It is. That's not a good setup for when you finally start playing because the intro screens look magnificent. They look so good.
Yeah.
And then you start playing, and then it looks less good.
Yeah. And so, this game, and all the Ultimas sort of did this. This game is the crossing line between text adventures and graphic adventures. This is like, it's got a foot in both sides, doesn't it? I mean, it gives you a text.
Well, I don't think so. I think something like Sands of Egypt it has a foot in both.
Well,
games. This is more on the other side.
But that's all text with a picture. This is actually. This has both.
But all role-playing games have both.
Well, I mean, this feels more like, especially the way you do commands and stuff in this. It's very text adventure.
That part of it, I agree with you.
And it's because when you do stuff in this game, I'll pull up Appendix A here. You've got commands. You've got a text area of your screen that tells you what's going on, which way you're going, what you've encountered. It tells you, and there's a cursor there.
Yeah, it's a log of every action that you take.
Did you ever figure out if you could print this log?
No.
I heard you asking it.
And when I played this on the live stream, I think that having a log is very useful. You can go back and you can look at old conversations and stuff. The problem is that you can't actually do that. The log, once it scrolls by, it's gone forever.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of some of the commands you can do, and we'll give you a full idea of the whole look of the game in a second. But you've got, if you want to like climb something, you hit K.
Yeah.
If you want to look at something, you hit L.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nothing happens automatically in this. If you want to talk to somebody, you hit T. If you want to attack something, you hit A. You get the picture here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, it's totally unintuitive in every way.
It's not a context-sensitive deal at all.
No, it's not point and click.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing like that.
Yeah.
The graphic side of it, the screen is basically split into like 4 boxes, one real thin one. You've got the main screen that's like a very tiny map with your character on it. Then you've got the text block. Then at the top, you've got your characters. And then in the middle, you've got some stats, okay? And so that's how you operate in this game. So when you're waiting for when you see this big awesome opening screen, like you said, that's soak them in.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rest of this game, you're going to be staring at a map way up in space as you traverse this world.
And the problem is not necessarily the window size, although it's not ideal. It's that you spend so much of this game, because this game has day-night cycle, you spend so much of having that window cut down even further by your inability to see. This game makes great use of fog of war.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about what you do in the game, okay? You spend the game moving around this world. Now, this Ultima is truly it's 2 sides of a coin, and they're vastly different. It's so simple to look at. Plus, you've got the text. This game is deeper than the ocean blue.
Yeah.
It's so deep, it's scary deep.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this, if you look at this manual, it scares, it's like looking at a D&D manual. You look at this thing and just look at all the crap you could buy, all the spells. This game's got its own language system, which the other games had it. This one, you have to I had to look up words and so I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You'll come across a sign with a bunch of shapes on it.
Yeah, one thing that you should know is you should prepare yourself if you do not have the manual with you, if you don't have the full docs. All the signs, the signposts to different villages and things, they're all rune-based.
Yeah.
And the rune code is not difficult, but it's, you can either figure it out on your own but really, this, and I'm sure we'll say it again, if you're going to sit down and play this thing, spend the money, buy the complete version with all the feelies, spread it out before you, and then go to town.
You should probably say save your money before you actually, because I'll get to that later.
Okay.
You're not just going to hop out and grab this one, folks. This ain't a tape. So, as you run around this map, and there's a plot, and I'm not going to give away too much. You've basically got to kill the 3 Shadow Lords. Each Shadow Lord represents this different emotion. There's hate, and there's sorrow, I think is one. The other one I never can remember. But anyway, you have to go, to do that, you have to get these certain items to kill them. Which to do that, you have to get into the dungeons to get this stuff. To do that, you've got to unseal the dungeons. So this isn't like a bang bang operation. This is a game of its era. Because you're going to be walking around. I watched Boat play this for a couple hours. I cackled as I watched this because I was like, oh, look at this Boat. And then, having seen what he did, armed with this documentation, I sat down to begin my voyage and wandered around for a week trying to figure out what I was doing. How to get people to tell you stuff when they get pissed off. Mm-hmm. The villagers and the people, you can interact with tons of stuff in this. That's amazing. But it's not necessarily helpful. I don't know how anyone did good at this game. It was so hard to figure out.
It's funny because people always talk about with Ultima that it takes a long time to do anything. It takes a long time to get anywhere. Even when I posted about this on Twitter, they're like, well, that's the idea. You just keep doing what you're doing for a couple more weeks before you figure out the first step to do. And I can respect that.
Yeah.
You know, like I've got no problems with a game like that. It's an interesting comparison because Japanese role-playing games are different. Those are games they're extremely long, especially the early ones. But the reason why those are so long is because you spend so much time grinding to build up your health.
Yeah.
In these games, like you can beat the whole game as we're watching the speedrun right here without really doing any combat at all. You don't have to grind at all. It's all story. You know, it's all exploration. It's all story.
Combat was tough for me. I got murdered a lot.
Me too.
The magic system's interesting. You can tell that Garriott was an old school, hardcore Dungeons & Dragons player because he didn't sugarcoat anything. This reminded me a lot of old D&D. You have spell components, you get chance of failure. You had to go gather the stuff you needed for the spells. You had to mix the stuff. The moon cycles will determine what you can and can't cast and when you can do it, when you can travel in certain places. I remember from the old games, they had these moon doors. I don't remember what they were, moon gates. And if you could actually take them with you at certain points, there's a stone in the ground. I remember that from like one of the old games. He carried stuff over from the old games. If you get real deep into the plot of this, the whole plot of this game is based on something that happened in one of the other games. Like, I mean, it carries on. So this is a guy who took attention to detail to a new level. I mean, he wasn't screwing around. And the game is not easy, and it punishes you often.
Yeah.
And also, just to get back to that code, I understand where he was going for, and when I was younger, I would have dug that, but I don't like it now.
Yeah.
I don't like having to have the manual in one hand constantly.
I think
the spells are all coded. You have to do all that stuff, but that's a pain in the butt.
I agree with you. When I was a kid, I loved decoder rings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was super cool. Now I just don't have time for it. And it's a shame, really, because I think that I probably lost some of the awesomeness that I had when I was younger. But it's hard to say that this is not a good game. This is a game that is aged poorly. It's a game that comes right at the end of the era when games could still get by looking like this. Like if you look at Ultima 6, the game got a big facelift. And it starts to look more like a modern game. This is a game where you have to take tons of notes.
Yeah.
Whenever you're talking to people, you got to write down what they say and remember it. And it's just not a game that's really easy to get into in 2020.
Well, we were talking before the show. Me and you were talking about the Spectre game this week. This is another game that has to be looked at in the context of when it was released and who was playing it. It takes the patience of a kid, and with no other games around, and to sit in a bedroom for days and weeks to play this kind of game. Now there are still people out there that could sit down and go for it. And I wish I could do that if I had the time or the attention span.
I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I wonder, it's like, if I had infinite time right now, would this be the game that I'd sink it into?
But you can't look at that now
But there are some games that we play that I do absolutely think that.
Right, but I mean, if you let's say today is 1989, and this is the game sitting in front of me at the time it's brand new, you may have a different opinion about it.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I want to mention this because I saw it on a wiki and I had to bring it up. To put in perspective the detail put in this game, Garriott programmed the game, because there's a telescope in the game that you can look up in the sky. He programmed the game to accurately depict planetary orbits.
Insane.
Okay?
Insane.
That's what I'm talking about here. Now, I played this off the GoTech, all right? I got it to load, and it wasn't too big of a pain in the butt. I did read nightmare stories on the C64 about this game. They mentioned in the wiki that they had built their own loader that would load this thing real fast, but it only worked on the 128 or the 64 from NTSC because it was based on the
cycles.
That's right. And so, but on the PAL, and apparently it was like mega slow. So I know a lot of people got killed over that, but I thought that was kind of an interesting tidbit. Excuse me. I played this a lot. In fact, I had this with me at work, and I'd have it on my laptop. I would just play it when I had idle time, and I did see a bunch of the world. One of the problems with this game as well is it takes forever to get across this world. So if you need to go somewhere Or you don't even know where you're going.
Again,
it just takes forever to get
though,
there.
that's a feature of an old school role playing game. You know, there's no fast travel.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, man. I know. It's said that this game was ported from the PC, which is why. Now we should talk about some of the places we don't like. Let's talk about the music. Go ahead, Bo. Because when you stumbled across this, I was like, I know he's going to say something about that.
Well, it's funny because when you start playing, you're like, there's a tune that's playing. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's music. Yeah. However, the tune continues to play and play and play until you want to tear your hair out.
Yeah.
It gets old. It would have been nice if they would have had, and the NES version has this, where you go to, you know, whatever zone you go into, it's got different music and stuff, and that's cool. I don't know why they only had one tune.
Well, get this. The Amiga version, that song is the only appears on the Amiga version. But guess what? Other versions have tons of songs that don't do that.
Yeah.
So Amiga got screwed on the song. That got turned off instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
That feature sucked.
Yeah.
Feature in quotes.
Yeah. The feature of only having one song.
Horrible. That was horrible. So that was a huge screw up right there.
And there's no excuse. It's not like when we talk about ports that came later on, you know, in like the mid to late 90s for the Amiga, and you could see, well, maybe they were just sort of half-assing it. This is 1989. This is the heart of the Amiga.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for you to be backing off on anything here.
Listen, some people may not want to hear it, but it's a fact. Quick and dirty port. Bam. That's all there is to it. That is an inexcusable thing.
Yeah.
You talked about the feelies and stuff. According to what I could find when I looked into this, amongst the things you got were the books, a cloth map, and you also got a coin representing the codex that was part of the game.
I believe that getting the coin was present in every Ultima game. There was a different kind of coin.
I like that.
I watched there's a good video Metal Jesus Rocks did. He basically unboxes every single Ultima game and talks a little bit about them. If you're at all interested, if you're an Ultima newbie, I suggest you check that out.
We were talking about the C64 version of this. It didn't have any music, which sucks. You had to have a 128 to get the tunes. So they kind of got. I don't know what is with the.
Well, I mean, the thing is that this is a massive game, and you know, maybe you just needed the extra power of the 128, you know, to get the music.
Now get this. This is something wacky I found. Okay, listen to this one, and I didn't know this. Richard Garriott did not like Trip Hawkins. All right, the guy that ran.
Really?
EA,
so they're like titans that are rivals.
Right. So
like Dusty and Rick.
Yeah. So
hard times, brother.
That's right. So in the game, if you look, there's a mausoleum named after Trip Hawkins, which basically I guess to badmouth him, and he also had a few other things in there that basically badmouth Hawkins. That's weird. He's one of the few guys who get away with that probably, and come out the other side.
They both are in the ramparts of their castles throwing bombs at each other.
Yeah. So where do you fall on this thing? Let's put this to bed. I mean, and I was mentioning this to Bo before we came on. 1 week is nowhere near the adequate time to judge a game of like this. We can judge the game, what makes up the game, the components of the game, but as a whole, and having looked over the story in this is incredible. From a D&D perspective, 2 thumbs up. It's awesome. I like the moral.
Mm-hmm.
I like all that stuff. I like the books. They're well written.
Mm-hmm.
As a game, in 2020, I'm never playing it again. Right? It's too much. Right? Even young Aaron didn't play these games.
Mm-hmm.
It was too much. It was too much like work.
Yeah.
But that much said, if this is your bag, you will be rewarded with a good story. I will say that. What do you think?
Yeah, it kept striking me, you know, as I looked back and forth from the screen to the instructions, that games like this, I would rather just read a book. I would rather read the Ultima 5, the novel. You know, I feel like I would get more enjoyment out of that than constantly. I don't like having to come into a game. I don't like having to read a book to be able to come into a game. I want the game to lead me along by the hand a little bit more.
Well, I knew this game was deep. In fact, we actually got tipped off that this was coming. And so the first thing, and I played these, and so like I said, I spent a good deal of time just reading the material. I love the material.
Yeah,
I really do.
And unlike, I mean, it really is well written. What was that that other game we had to play where the guy kills himself at the end? You had to read the novelette
Oh
to
yeah.
get in. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of that. I didn't think that was very well written. But this thing, I mean, like, it reads like any fantasy novel does. It's good. It's good.
But I mean, in terms of the depth of this game, it's deep. It's just that the interface just wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
Now, because I'm a spoiled 2020 jerk.
Now, if I go back to this, I will play the console version because at least then I will be able to have sort of a menu-driven system that I can navigate more easily.
I will say the console version, from what I read, it was totally different from this.
Really?
I mean, there's a lot of differences.
Okay.
So there you go. I did look this up for reviews. I did find some. Lemon, the people there gave it an 8.25. Ace gave it a 91. Joystick gave it a 95. Amiga Joker 95, and Amiga Power 93. The game, ironically, the game was ranked 18th best game of all time by Amiga Power 91. So I guess they changed their tune.
Yeah.
Ace said this was the game of the year in '89, best role-playing game of the year '89, and it made the Ace's all-time list. What do you got?
We got some reviews here, Aaron. Let's see here. I take it all back. We got no reviews this week. We thought we had at least one.
I saw a lot of people that were bowing out on this one.
Yeah.
I saw a couple people. So I priced this on eBay, okay? And I had a feeling this was going to be expensive. And as you get back into the Ultimas, I should mention this also has the rep of being Garrett's favorite one.
Really?
So,
that I never read. Interesting.
This game is heralded by people that aren't us, that really know about role-playing games, okay? Because of the plot and the morals. I dig what he was going for.
Oh yeah.
All right. On eBay, I saw this go. The minimum I saw one going for was $32, and I saw him going all the way up into the 90s, depending on what was still with the box. You know, so you're probably going to pay some money for this one. Now, that much said, it's probably a sound investment, because games like this, there aren't that many, and they're still popular.
Yeah.
And '89, there are probably still some more than, say, the third or the second Ultima, obviously, but it would be bad
I tell you,
to pick one up.
I remember, and this has been years ago, looking at prices for Alcabeth, the very first Ultima in the plastic bag and all that stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, before we go, Aaron, we should probably talk a little bit about what's been going on over on our YouTube channel. We've got some new videos up this week. The first one, we should talk about Magic Land Dizzy. This was last week's Our Sinclair. So last week we had a go with Magic Land Dizzy.
Another game of its era.
Yeah, and you know, it's another Dizzy game.
Actually, I thought this was way better than any other Dizzy games I've played.
Yes, compared to the other ones we played.
It was still
on the show.
I also didn't instantly get murdered.
Yeah.
So I called it a win, as I recall. And this one, I mean, this is a game that I liked. I mean, in terms of a Dizzy game, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see what else we've got here. I played a couple Atari games. I played Mr. Do for the Atari. This is part of the Atari High Score Champion Club over on Atari Age. Mr. Do's a heck of a port on the Atari 8-bit. Heck of a port. And
it's weird to see it that long.
Yeah, it's stretched out a little bit. We did have a Classic Computer Club meeting last week.
Yeah.
And we played a bunch of Intellivision. The Intellivision was the star of the show. You brought that thing over. We had a blast playing that.
Yeah, I modded the Intellivision. Actually, I'll thank Eric Nelson over at Pixel Guidance they've been talking about, and Cody as well, talking about Intellivision modding it. And I've had mine sitting around forever. And that is the problem, that RF. It's hard to get fired up to play the games that look so bad. And I will say, we played the crap out of some Intellivision. We had a lot of fun. That thing's been up for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, we have not finally, we still got a couple more videos. Amigos on Tour. This is Pixels at Dawn's final video.
Pixels looking like a model.
He does. He looks like freaking Dean Cain in 1995.
Oh, wait, that's an ad.
So,
there he is.
There I am. Did you just think I was Pixels? That's me.
I thought they got the ad. I know who you are.
Oh, okay.
So look, all the luminaries of Amiga all in one shot.
That's right. That's right. But Pixels basically he shot so much footage, and he's combined the best of the best all together. There it is, Super Dodge, game of games.
The bane of my existence.
Check this thing out. You know, if you didn't get a chance to see any of our Amiga Ireland footage, and you want to see just a quick shot of the best of, Pixels has done a fantastic job. This is the video this is the video that I send people when they ask about what I did. I say, just watch this.
That's great.
It's great.
I love it.
I mean, it's amazing.
Oh man, I'd have bought every one of those manuals right there.
I could have sold you some Amigos magnets.
Oh man, those are good.
And finally, Aaron, we released a new Coco Show podcast where we talk about Starship Chameleon.
Yeah, I like this game too. It could have been better, but it was still pretty good, and it's a very unique game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's gonna.
Oh wait, one more, Boat.
What's that? What did I forget?
A little show called ARG Presents, Boat.
ARG Presents.
Yeah, remember us?
Is that a show on our network?
Yeah, it sure is. So this past week, listen, I lived your dream this week, pal.
You did.
Acorn freaking Archimedes. We played it. I love the Archimedes. This is the exact opposite of the ST or the Falcon. I mean, my experience with the Archimedes was great. I liked the OS. I liked my game. I heard from a guy who sent me all the manuals to this game, so I could really get intimately into it. Very
Did you ever figure out why it's called Chalks Away?
I know why it's called Chalks Away.
Oh, it's because it's the leany thing, right?
That's the thing that keeps the wheels from spinning.
Yeah, the leany thing.
We had a lot of fun with this, though.
It was the other thing. It was something about like tally-ho ginger. Did you ever figure out that?
I didn't know.
Okay, you never figured that out.
But we had a lot of fun. We played. Well, I will say the game Brent picked was unique. I will say that. But we had a lot of fun, and this week we're going to be playing games that were released only on Windows 3.x.
I am really looking forward to this. You know that Windows 3.1, it can multitask and the Amiga couldn't.
I saw your idiotic post that I'm not going to comment on. You're nuts, by the way. Amiga's multitasking crushed that. But that's a whole other conversation.
All right, Aaron.
Yeah, you just destroyed the chat.
It's time to wrap things up.
Yeah. Before the hook comes out.
I do want to thank Blindo75 for his suggesting Ultima 5 and for the Amigos Game Selection Committee for voting on it. Last week, the Patreon song, Aaron. The streak has finally been broken.
Pack Billy?
Pack Billy.
Yeah,
you guessed it. Pack Billy guessed the name of the song. The song was Just My Imagination by The Temptations.
Look at that.
Tally-Ho Ginger is a reference to the Biggles books. You know, the Biggles books.
I don't know those.
Ginger was his flying partner.
Thank you, Pixels, because I don't know what that means, but at least with the mystery solved.
Yeah, by saying it live on air, someone will be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they'll get it. If you know the answer to this week's Patreon song challenge.
What was last week's again?
Just My Imagination.
Okay.
You knew it.
Did I?
It was just
no, I didn't know what. I know that song, but I didn't get your version.
What about when I throw in the moves?
That makes me sort of nauseous.
We do have a new supporter this week, Aaron. We want to welcome Tech Mage.
Oh, yeah.
Tech Mage to the stage.
You didn't watch Babylon 5, did you?
I watched the good one. The Hot Starbuck.
Babylon 5, not Battlestar Galactica.
It's all the same.
No. They had these guys called Techno Mages on the show. They used technology to simulate magic. It was awesome.
That does sound awesome.
It was great. They were awesome. And feared. They were awesome and feared.
Oh, yeah.
Carry on. Good name, dude.
If you know the this week's Patreon song, you can send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com. Tech Mage Zebedee's magic round. The Bound Jerkin, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zorglub, Commodore Kid Jorgman, Knudsen, Reflection, Simon Lichcap, and Crispy Kilobytes and Caffeine, Mike W. Decker, Threepwood, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator, 10-minute Amiga Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, Retro Man Cave, Tim, Drew, Simon, Rose, Joseph, Harrison, Kyle Eder, Robbo, Hera, Howard, Nips, Matthew, Lara, Andy, Craig, Shanzo, Darren, Lomax, Colin 419, Bark, Bit, Roland, Burke, Andrew Monk.
What's out there?
Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Leaf, Kellon, Alan, Kebab, Checote, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Biggie CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan, Sorgan Mortensen, Edvin Helland, Blindo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Graham, Greg, Keelane, Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, and Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humbert, Shad, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warrens, Pixels at Dawn, and Killbjorn Barman.
Brutal Barracuda?
Hey man, it's
He's
the
a
end
musical.
of the song.
He's a musical guy.
You know what a coda is?
Huh?
Do you know what a coda is?
Oh yeah, I know what a coda is.
All right, hit me.
He's a guy from the Bronx that makes programs. Or Boston, depending on where you
You
your
can't even
lingo.
get that joke right.
Come on,
man.
either way. That was a good one.
It was great.
He's a coda.
It was fantastic. Pakyaka.
Just like Barry Horowitz.
Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, chat.
We're sorry, Chad.
We want to thank especially our people that are watching us live on Twitch right now. Pixels of Dawn Gaming, Johnny Renegade.
Ooh, I like that.
Ed Van Helland is here from the Man Cave. I am Paul H., the Boss Man. Wing Chun Wolf Boss Man. I just told Aaron that you're never in the stream, and here you go, popping up.
He's been here several times.
Go sub. Wing Chun Wolf is here with us.
Tonight?
Bark Bit, Frodo and El Mitsuyama, El Curtis B, Bike Me, Paul Kitching, Delamort 78. Thank you guys so much for being here with us this evening on the show. And we do record every Friday around 5:30 Eastern Time. We have sprung forward, which either puts us in or out of Daylight Savings Time. I'm never sure which.
I can't even remember that.
And yeah, you can always check our show out on anchor.fm/Amigos podcast if you want the audio version, or our YouTube channel. I try and remember to archive the shows on Twitch, but sometimes I forget. I believe that that's everything. We do have other shows, though. I guess we should plug real quick. ARG Presents. The Brent and Aaron tackle a different computer/video game/theme
Sometimes
every
they
week.
tackle us
violently. We've got 1200 XL and Atari 8-bit gaming podcast.
All right. That's
our
my motto.
Our Sinclair ZX Spectrum podcast. The Coco Show.
Oh.
All about the Tandy color computer. So if you like old computers and you like old men,
We're the show for you.
You'll fit right in with us.
And you can go back and listen to the old episodes of the old shows.
That's
We've got
right.
the whole library. It's ready for your perusal in the book.
Everything is archived and ready to rock
Did you
and roll.
remember that stat you put up this week of how many shows we've done and
Yeah.
the numbers that was? What do you
It's
remember
like
what it was?
375 hours of content. So
Amazing,
it
ludicrous,
is. Yeah,
sinful, frankly.
it is. It is. Well, guys, thanks as always for listening. We'll see you next week. Until then, adios.